Welcome to Lesson 11. Now it's time to learn how to play the game. So we're going to head over to I Love Maj, where we're going to play through the first third of the game during this lesson. Here we are at ilovemaj.com, where I'm going to be playing against bots. And I want to go over the bot levels with you just so you understand about them. And I also want to let you know that I will be doing a video after this educational series to explain to you how I Love Maj works if you want to come in and practice after you've learned, because they've got some wonderful features, including the exercise room. So I'm going to be doing a video with some instruction on how to come in and play just for fun with the bots and in the exercise room. All right, so I want to explain about the bot level. There are 3 levels: standard, intermediate, and advanced. The standard level bot is the simplest of the bots. They understand and play by the rules, but they don't always make the wisest decisions, similarly to how a beginner player would play. The intermediate level 2, they understand and play by the rules as well, but they make much smarter decisions and they play more defensively. And the third level is the advanced level, and this is the most advanced of the bot levels, and they are very strategic players, and they will give a challenge to even the most advanced players. So as a beginner, you would want to be playing level 1, the standard level, and as you get better, challenge yourself to move up to intermediate and then to advanced. For the purpose of this lesson, I am going to be playing the beginner level because I want you to get the experience of not only playing as a beginner, which is what you're going to be playing as for quite a while, and what it's like to play against other beginners, because chances are, if you do play in the beginning, you might be also playing against other beginner players. So I'm going to go ahead and click the standard, and then I'm going to go ahead and launch the game. Now this box pops up and it asks if I am open to receiving live games during the session. I'm going to go ahead and click no, because I don't want any interruptions while I'm teaching. Now, once it loads, this is the first box that pops up. Now, on this screen, you have the ability to change the card, but everybody should be playing with the 2023 card at this point. But if you wanted to practice with other years and you did have other year cards, you certainly could do that. I Love Maj also has their own card, so that's also fun to use if you want to just practice your strength of learning how to read a card. And then we have a timer, and the timer gives an experience that's similar to when a player would call a tile in person. So if you want to increase your speed of play, setting the timer would do that. And if you click on this, you'll see that you could go up to 10 seconds. And this would be 10 seconds, and you're making a decision as to whether you wanted to call a tile, as we learned in previous lessons. And if you run out of time, there is a pause button. So even if you use it to time yourself, you could still pause it. This is something really, really good to incorporate and to start out at 10 and move down until you get to the 4-second timer. This will help you improve the speed of your game. For the purpose of teaching, I'm going to keep the timer off just so I don't have to pay attention to it, and I'll be taking my time anyway, explaining all of the moves during the game. Now, here's another place where you could change the bot level if for some reason you decided you wanted to go to intermediate. Let's say you started at level 1 and you want to go to intermediate. This is where you could say, you know what, I want to challenge myself and try level 2. The next item is the change theme. So this has color themes that you can change, and you could change the style of the tiles as well. This is a fun thing to check out if you want to. I have this on the classic tile, which looks like the most similar to a generic Mah Jongg set that most beginner players would purchase for themselves. So now I'm going to pull up a photo to talk about what the rule of thirds is as it applies to the game of Mahjong. Taking a look at this photo, you're going to see that everybody's walls are already built and East has already rolled the dice. And why do we know that? Because the break is here. Now, after the deal of the tiles, which is going to take up this many tiles, you have to imagine where the first 33 tiles are going to begin. There are always going to be 99 tiles left after the break, but when the break changes based on a different number of tiles held back, it is going to change where the 33 tiles for the first 1/3 of the game begins. You have to understand that these lines here visually are going to change, and how you imagine them in your mind is going to change. Okay, if there are 99 tiles left after the break and the deal, then we will take and divide that 99 into thirds to get the begin game, which is what we show here, and the second third, the middle game, which will be in the next lesson, and then finally the end game, which is the last third of the tiles. Now, you're not going to get it exactly accurate, but getting close is going to help tremendously so that you just have a feel of how many tiles are in the beginning, middle, and end game. So I've got the lines here showing the approximate begin game 33 tiles. And of course, if you count from the top and the bottom, which I could do here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 33. And of course, I said 33 because obviously it's even, and I'm just counting 33 tiles. Then that would give you an idea of how many tiles you're going to be applying the strategy that I teach you during this lesson. So when I refer to the begin game, you'll know what you need to do during the begin game. You'll know what rules to apply that I feel are important to adhere by during the first third of the game. And we have our tiles now in front of us. Now, in person, you were taught to sort the tiles by suit and in numerical order, and you could still do that by dragging the tiles around. It's very easy. You hold the left mouse click down and drag. But if you want, the computer will do it for you by clicking sort by suit. All right, now we have our tiles sorted by suit. And I put my Winds and Dragons to the right. I'm just accustomed to doing that. It's what I feel comfortable doing. And the reason I do it is because Winds and Dragons are in their own category, and they're at the end of most of the categories on the card. So I kind of feel they deserve their own area at the end. But if you were to feel comfortable leaving them at the front, that's fine too. Flowers I leave at the front of the tiles because flowers are found on all the lines on the card, all the hands with the flowers at the beginning. And most years they're like that, but some years, like last year, we had flowers in the middle of some of the hands, but they still had many where they were at the beginning of the hand. And that, again, is where they are generally found. All right, the next thing we have to do is start to rearrange our tiles so that we can form them into categories. And what I like to do is look at the tiles to see if I have any multiples. A multiple would be a pair of something, a pung of something, and sometimes you might even get lucky enough to get a Kong of something. In this case, I have my 2 8s here. So I'm going to start out, and in the beginning, as a beginner, it's good to take your time and do this. I know that 2023, the upper left-hand section of the card, has no 8. Then we move down to the evens, 2, 4, 6, 8. And yes, there are 8s in 2, 4, 6, 8. So what I will do is take all of the evens and group them together, just like that. And then I will be left with, I have one more. And then I will be left with odds. Well, I have lots of 2, 4, 6, 8 in this deal, lots of them. And I have a few of the 3, 6, and 9, a little bit in the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, but not a lot in either 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 or 3, 6, 9. So it looks like I'm headed toward looking at that 2, 4, 6, 8 section for sure. Now, what else can I possibly keep an eye on? Well, the other thing is I look at the next category, any like numbers, and I have a few like numbers, not a whole lot at this point, but that's okay. Since we're going to be collecting these 2, 4, 6, 8 tiles right now, I am also going to be able to keep an eye on like numbers. And then if we look below at the addition hands, do we have any potential for, since we have 2s here and 4s here, do we have any potential for 2 plus 2 equals 4 or 4 plus 4 equals 8? Well, it so happens that if you're playing 2, 4, 6, 8, you could easily keep track of 2 plus 2 equals 4 or 4 plus 4 equals 8. All right, so right now we've got some good idea as to what we're going to collect going over that left section, the left panel of the card. Now the middle panel, quints, I'm not going to even consider because I don't even look at them unless I have a few jokers to begin with and I have 0, and unless I have some more elements of the hand, some more parts of it. And I really don't have much even to look at without jokers at this point. So we're going to skip quints. We're going to go to consecutive run. And because I have so many 2, 4, 6, 8s, I'm not going to really look too much at consecutive run, although I do have a little bit in 2, 3, 4. I have, a little bit with mixed suits of 2, 3, 4. I certainly have some run in the 2, 3, 4 range, but I think that my 2, 4, 6, 8 is still winning out right now as far as anything else goes. All right, now we talked a little bit about 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 below consecutive run, and I've only got 2 9s. I only have 1 Wind and Dragon from the upper right hand section of the card on the right panel, and I have 1, 2, 3 tiles. Actually, I have more. I have 1, 6. Let me put these over here so they're in order. I have a 3, 6, 9 dot, 6 bam, 9 crack toward the 3, 6, 9 section of the card. So I do have a nice amount of 3, 6, 9, but not as many as 2, 4, 6, 8. So let me see if we count this out. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 even tiles, and then 3, 6, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, well, 9 is a whole lot better than the 3, 6, 9 amount. So I'm going to put those back in order where they were for right now. And I'm going to go ahead and work on 2, 4, 6, 8 because that is the section I have the most tiles in, and it's looking really good. Now, singles and pairs, I didn't mention that, but I should, is always a good option when you have no jokers. So I will keep my eye on singles and pairs. And there is a 2, 4, 6, 8 hand under singles and pairs. And as you learned in a previous lesson, these singles and pairs hands are baby bits of the bigger hands. So that 4th hand down under singles and pairs are merely baby bits of the hands under the category 2, 4, 6, 8 on the left-hand side of the card. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass this. Let's talk a little bit about passes and making wise decisions. I have a couple of rules that I like to apply, and I'm hoping you will too. One is to try and mix things up if you can. Try to mix up the suits that you're passing, maybe even mix up the categories if you can. But if you can't do a perfect job at that, it's okay. The other thing is to not pass a pair. And if you pass a pair, then you may be giving those 2 tiles to someone else that's working in that category with those tiles, and you've just given them a wonderful gift toward their hand. So you don't want to pass pairs. Now, sometimes you could get stuck with it, but there are ways to avoid that. That's a little bit more advanced than we're going to cover in this lesson, but for a future lesson and when I create the Advanced Beginner to Intermediate series, we'll definitely be diving more into that. All right, and so the other thing is you don't want to pass flowers during the Charleston because flowers are very needed tiles. There are so many hands that have pairs of flowers and kongs of flowers. And if somebody is playing a hand with a pair of flowers, this game is so strange the way it works. Sometimes you get tons of flowers and you're not even playing flowers. And other times you're playing a hand that needs a pair of flowers and you're waiting and waiting and waiting forever for someone to maybe even throw you Mah Jongg with the last flower that they need to complete their hand for that pair. So you don't want to give flowers to anybody during the Charleston because, again, my belief is you are giving a gift if you do that. Those right now, there is one more thing. Winds and dragons are very popular this year. Mostly the winds, not particularly the dragons, but you could look at it as a combination. So when you're passing in the Charleston, you can try to do your best to avoid passing a couple of winds together. And hopefully as we go through the Charleston here, we might see how that plays out. I'm using one in this first right. As you can see, it says right here, it is the first right. But hopefully you've got that memorized already, as you learned in a previous lesson. First right, across. First left, second across, and last right. And then, of course, you have that optional pass number 7. But now we're going to get ready to hit pass on the first pass here on our first right. Now, did I get any tiles in toward the 2, 4, 6, 8? Well, I surely did. I got a 4, bam, and now I still have 3 tiles to pass in that first Charleston. Now, I'm going to be making notes of certain things, but I don't expect you to remember every little thing right now. Once you learn the basics and you come back and rewatch this, a lot of things that I say are going to start to make a whole lot of sense. So, for instance, I passed my first right. On my first right, I passed an east. And then I received from the person on my left an east. So I know now, I'm just planting it in my brain that there are 2 easts floating around. And so I'm going to go ahead and click pass. Now, did I get anything else in? I did not. And now I got a north and a west. That means there's 2 easts out there and I just got a north and a west. Well, I know I don't need 7. 7 is not into 4, 6, 8. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to get rid of, I'm going to do the north. The reason I'm going to do the north, and again, if you don't get this right away, it's okay if you ended up passing the west instead of the north, but east and west and then north and south kind of go together in a lot of hands under Winds and Dragons. So if you pause the video and take a look, you'll see that line number 2 uses north and south on the left side, and then line number 3 uses north and south on the left side, and line number 4 uses north and south on the left side. So I try to break up those tiles if I'm passing and not pass them together if I can avoid it. And then you'll see the same in line 2, 3, and 4. On the right side, you've got the east and west working together. Now, since there are 2 easts out there and somebody may end up getting them and hoping they get more west for one of those hands, or who knows, maybe they're going to collect them all. I would prefer not to send out the west during this pass, which means I have to break something up from here. So we've got to look a little bit more closely at the 2, 4, 6, 8 section to see what we might want to do. Or maybe we'll go ahead and look at the singles and pairs section just to see how that would work out and to see which tiles we already have the most of, because that hand, number 4, under singles and pairs, requires 2 different suits. And so if I use the 2, 4, and 6, I've got 3 of each of those tiles, and I'm missing the 6 in the cracks. I'm missing 8 in the dots. I have more to go with in the BAMs. So I would probably end up choosing the BAMs, and I could choose either the cracks or the dot. Now, I would also want to make sure that I protect myself in case the singles and pairs doesn't work out, and that could happen a number of reasons. All of the tiles that you need for a single could get discarded, and since you can't call anything on a concealed hand, and you can't use any jokers in any singles or pairs, you might end up having a hand that goes dead because all of your single tiles or parts of your pairs have gone out. The other thing is that you could start picking in jokers, and then it's a decision-making time as to whether you still want to go for singles and pairs and give away jokers or discard your jokers, or then switch over to 2, 4, 6, 8. So if we were to switch over to 2, 4, 6, 8, I would take a look at some of the hands on the card to see, which ones I could play. And I could certainly do line number 1 with the flowers, and I have, the pair of 8, so I might want to stick with that there and hold those if I were going to be thinking about that. Line number 2 is a bunch of pairs and a couple singles, and then it's 2 Kongs of any even numbers. So I could also keep that, and I could choose maybe to keep the 2s or 4s as my even numbers for those Kongs at the bottom, at the right side of the hand. But line number 3 I like even more, and I'll tell you a little bit about why. This hand is the Hong Kong configuration, and that configuration, 2 Pungs and 2 Kongs, is found all over the card. And if you get a chance to take a look and see if you could spot them, that would be great. I'm not going to take the time right now to do that, but I'm sure I'm going to be mentioning Hong Kong many times throughout these lessons. And the reason I like that configuration is because Pungs are 3 tiles, and they're easier to make than having to get 4 tiles, although all of the groupings are great because you can use jokers in all of them, and you don't have to worry about singles or pairs. So that would be something I'd want to consider. And in order to consider that one, I could think of the left side of that line, number 3, under 2, 4, 6, 8, which is all 1 suit, or I could think of 2 suits, which is, and let me move these out of the way just so you get a good visual. 2, 4 for the first on the right side of line number 3, 2, 4, 1 suit. As you can see, 2 colors, 2 suits, and then 6, 8 for the other suit. The other thing I could do, if I wanted to, was I could use the dots, and I would have 2, 4, 6, 8. And the only reason I'm using the BAMs for the 6 and 8 is because I already have 2 8s. So that makes sense to do. Now, the flower I will keep for quite a while until I am 100% sure I am not going to be using the flower. And we're going to talk more about flowers as time goes on during this lesson. All right, so we want to keep 2, 4, 6, 8. And I want to maybe try and keep 2, 4, 6, 8. Can we also keep track of the singles and pairs? And it looks like it's almost literally impossible to do that without breaking up something. So I'm just going to have to take one end of the spectrum if I don't want to get past 2 wins. I'm going to have to do that. And I think what I'll end up doing is I'll keep the BAMs, and if I keep the dot for the 2 suits would be the dots and the BAMs for the singles and pairs, then actually I do have the 8 that I can pass. All right, so remember, we talked about keeping track of the singles and pairs, line number 4, in the 2 suits, in the dots and the BAMs, and then also 2, 4 in dots, 6, 8 in BAMs, or 2, 4 in cracks, and 6, 8 in BAMs, which is line number 3 under 2, 4, 6, 8. And there are other hands under 2, 4, 6, 8 that we may also work out, look at that might work out as well. But right now, I think we've got a lot of good stuff going on. So I'm going to pass the 8th crack and see what we get in. All right, so we've just now completed the first right across and the first left. And on that first left, I did not stop to mention this, and I should have, but that's when we could have done a blind pass if we wanted to, but I prefer not to. I like to always maximize as many tiles as I can get in. If I had like one really strong hand that was forming, then I might utilize that blind pass. But in this case, I didn't want to do that. Now, this is asking if I want to continue the Charleston. All right, what did we learn? Do I want to continue the Charleston based on what I got in and what I have in my hand here? Yes, absolutely, because I have tiles I can pass. Stopping the Charleston means I have one hand. That's it. I've zeroed in on one fantastic hand, and I don't have that. So we're going to click continue.
Second Charleston.
And now we are on the second left, and this is the second Charleston that is starting. So we had the first Charleston with the first 3 moves. Now we're starting the second Charleston, and I got an east back. So I am hoping there's only 2 east, those original 2 we talked about. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the 7, the 1, the 7 BAM 1 dot, and the east, and I'm going to keep the west because that one I got in new. So I'm going to keep it and not send it out. All right, now I got an east again in, and so it's feeling like nobody's playing the east and west. I don't know about north and south yet, but right now I got a strong feeling nobody is playing east and west. So I am going to send out the east, the 5, and the 9, and let's see what we get in. All right, I got a north in. So we got the north back, and I did not get any more tiles towards 2, 4, 6, 8. And sometimes that's the way it goes in this game. And sometimes you get a lot more, sometimes you don't, but I had so many to begin with, and I think we got in at least 1. So that's not bad. I'm going to go ahead and pass this out to the second right, and that's our last right and the last 3 passes of the second Charleston. So we've now gone through 6. We have now gone through both the first and second Charlestons. First right, across. First left, second across, last right. And we are now on the optional across pass, otherwise referred to as the courtesy pass. And I didn't get anything else in. So I am going to go ahead and choose 3 tile and double click on those 3. And by the way, if I didn't mention it earlier on, you can drag or double click. Either one works in the Charleston. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hit pass, and maybe I'll get lucky enough to get 1 tile in. Woo! I got 1 tile in. Well, what do you know? That looks really great. I love to get any tiles towards what I'm collecting is very nice. All right, so now it's the beginning of the game, and I am east as indicated here underneath my picture. And because I'm east, I have 14 tiles, so I start out with the discard, and I am going to, and you can again drag or you can double click to discard. Either one works. I'm going to keep track of the 99 tiles because we're going to be playing the first 33 tiles of the game. So the break ended up being very similar to the picture that I showed you, where after the deal there are 99 tiles left. So that's 33 for the begin game, 33 for the middle game, and 33 for the end game. All right, I'm going to go ahead and double click. That's what I'm used to doing, but you might like to drag it to the table.
5 crack.
And of course, you must name the tiles when you're in person, but the game does it for you, and that should help strengthen your knowledge of the tiles as well. All right, we are going to get this box every single time a tile is discarded, and the reason for that is this mimics in-person play. Every time somebody discards a tile when you're playing in person, you have to think a little bit about whether you want to call it or not. But you do have to think a little quicker when you're in person, or if you're not sure, and as you learned, you have to say, hold up, give me a minute, wait, whatever it is to get someone to give you a little more time to think about whether you need the tile. And this is also where the timer comes in, if you want to time yourself and see how long it takes for you to make decisions. I'm going to help you speed up your decisions with the strategy that you learn in this first 1/3 of the game. All right, so I am not playing East, and I'm not playing Wins at all. And we know the East went around during the Charleston, and so I'm going to hit ignore. And during this first 1/3 of the game, you don't have to think much about whether or not you need a tile unless it's in your categories, your sections. Categories or sections means the same thing. If you hear me use both, I do use them interchangeably. But whether you need a tile, you know that because we're playing even. So right away, you've got to really be thinking, I don't need a 7 dot. So there's really nothing to think about. So you're going to click ignore, East, ignore. All right. So now let's talk about how we prioritize our discards. And the way we do that is I like to first get rid of anything that I had in the Charleston that, first of all, I got in but maybe didn't put out again, or that I had in my hand that never went around in the Charleston, that I never passed. So that's one of the ways that I want to get out my tiles in that order. And the reason is because those tiles are going to be fresher to most of the other opponents. They're going to be tiles that weren't seen in the Charleston. Like for instance, this West I got really early. I think it was on the second pass. So there are other opponents that never even saw this West. So that would be a reason to prioritize the West. The 5 bam, I don't think that was either. I don't remember getting that. Maybe I had it in the very beginning, but I just don't remember it. So in any event, I am going to get out the West first. I don't think anybody's playing Winds, but I'm going to go ahead and get the West out. I could even get the 5 out first, or the 9 will eventually go out. You also want to prioritize by what is not on the table. So you always want to get out the freshest tiles, the tiles that haven't been seen on the table. And then once they're on there once, you can start duplicating them. But the idea of that is if you get out fresh tiles early, people aren't ready. Your opponents aren't ready. Their hands are not set yet to call or, even to Mah Jongg. So the earlier the better. If somebody does call for an exposure, it's a good thing because it's better that they call for an exposure than to ever hold on to a tile and wait and wait and wait until their hands are getting more set, and then you decide to discard and give Mah Jongg. I know these concepts are a little challenging to get, but as you get more comfortable with the game and really understand it, these things are going to start to really fall into place.
Left 5 bam.
All right, so I'm going to ignore that. And of course, I've got a 5 bam in my hand. I'm not playing with odd. And I am going to go, oh, we got a tile in toward our hand. Isn't that lovely? All right, so that's really cool. And I do want to just talk about the soap that was discarded here. Since the soap has a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde persona, we want to make sure that we get those out early. And that's another tile I try to avoid passing during the Charleston because it has a dual role. So that means it could be needed not just for the whole card, but specifically as a 0 in a 2023 hand. So just keep that in mind. All right, I'm going to discard the 5 bam.
3 dots south.
And we're not going to make any decisions about calling anything until I get more tiles in. All right, now there are 2 E's on the board already, so I am going to send that out soon, but I want to do the 9 dot because that's not out there at all yet.
9 dot.
So that's a fresh tile.
9 crack.
And I also got to keep
crack.
track because we're only going to play to 66 tiles here. All right, and there's no 7 bam out, so I'll get that out.
North. 3 bam. Left.
And there's 1 9 crack out. And just to be sure that nobody's playing with the Winds, because there is one hand that uses singles, and that is the bottom hand in the 2023 section, upper left hand section of the card. There is a single north in Winds and Dragons line 5. There are some pairs, so I want to get that out early. This will be the 3rd east.
East 7 crack. Left. 9 dot.
All right, well, the 1 bam's out already, and the 9 crack is out already. 9 crack, 1 bam, so either one is good.
1 bam. 1 dot. 7 bam. Red.
All right, so 7 bam and 9 crack. Again, there's 2 7 bams and only 1 9 crack, so I'll do the 9 crack.
9 crack. 4 bam.
All right, now I am playing with 4 bams, but I can't call because I don't have any jokers and I haven't decided or even settled in on a hand yet. And once you call, you're usually committed to a hand. Sometimes the tile can be used, the grouping can be used in more than one hand in a section, but in this case, I can't call because I don't have enough 4s and I have no jokers.
7 crack. 3 dots.
Alrighty, I got an 8 dot in, and I do have a 7 bam to get out. So again, I don't have to do anything yet. I'm just still collecting 2, 4, 6, 8. No rush to decide on a hand. I do see some nice things forming, and we're going to look at those as soon as we get in another tile. And of course, I can't call that either. I have no 2 bams in my hand at all.
6 crack.
But if I wanted to play the singles and pairs hand, I do make a note, a mental note, that 1 2 bam's gone out and I have 3 more chances to get a 2 bam in my hand.
9 crack.
All right, so I just got another 6 in, and we are at 63 tiles, so I went a little bit over. We're going to stop right here and continue the second third of the game in the next lesson. But we've got some nice things going on here. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the singles and pairs fourth hand down would look like if we wanted to play it. So 2, 4, 6, 8. We would need, first of all, a pair of flowers. We would need another 6 dot and an 8 dot. And then for 2, 4, 6, 8, we would need the 2s, which we know 1 went out. We have the 4 and 6 single, and we have the pair of 8s. So it's a possibility. It's a far stretch, but you never know with this game what goes on. And then I had spoken about the pung, kong hand, line 3 under 2, 4, 6, 8. And remember, you can pause your video anytime you need to take more time to take a look at these hands and find them. Line 3 to under 2, 4, 6, 8. And not the flower, but here we have the 2 dots would be the pung, the 4 dots would be the kong, the 6 bams would be the pung, and I could actually call that if it goes out because I already have 2 and I only need 3. And I could call the 8 bams if it goes out because I already have 3 and I only need 4. It'd be nice if I got a few jokers, so maybe I will in the second third of the game. Well, until then, rewatch this video so you're ready for the next lesson. And I'll see you in lesson 12 in just a little bit.